gentlemen, a couple weeks ago, I had a guest on and I said to him, look, when more information becomes available, just, feel free to pop on by. And I also remember in that conversation that at some point I said, 2 weeks now is different than 2 weeks back in March. Well, it's been 2 weeks. And it's been a huge 2 weeks. Joining me once again, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Jim McDonald of the Rhode Island Department of Health. And Doc, it's good to see you again. Wow. So much news in under 2 weeks, just a wide range of things and even more good news coming out this week with the opening of the mass vaccination sites. Everything is just, have you slept?
Oh, Ben, I sleep just fine. Thank you very much. Yeah. I mean, I will say this, I start very early in the morning and often end very late at night, but this is something I learned in medical school was that if you want to run a marathon, you better get plenty of sleep. So I'm a little bit older too. So 10 o'clock, I'm out, 5 o'clock, I'm up, we work out in the morning around the McDonald house. Gail and I get up, go downstairs and work out. And then I'm usually at the computer by 6, getting some stuff done.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, hey, I mean, that's great. And I think we mentioned offline last week, 2 weeks ago, your wife is also in the medical field. She's an audiologist.
Yes.
And, that was something that people had commented to me personally and just, in conversation about the episode. They loved hearing some of your background, being with the Navy and getting your degree there, running the marathon over in Japan and just doing all these great things. So to know that your wife is also an audiologist, that's pretty awesome. And any signs of the McDonald children going towards the med field or?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that necessarily. I will say that Sarah, who's at college, has got a little bit of an interest in public health. So we'll see how that goes. She's studying communications right now, but communications is something where it's pretty broad. Christopher is still in high school, so he's not really sure what he's going to do. And Noah, my Noah is 22. He's on the autism spectrum, and he works at the Newport Marriott as a dishwasher. And he's thrilled to have the job, and I'm thrilled he's got a job. It's one of the things I've noticed about people who are differently abled. It's really hard for them to get a job. And he loves working at the Marriott doing their dishes. It's funny, he came home the night before Valentine's Day, the 13th, and he was exhausted because I guess they said he washed over 2,000 dishes. So I'm very happy the Marriott had a good day there. But he enjoys his job. He likes it. He works hard and he does a good job, I'm told. So I'm really proud of him.
Well, that's excellent. Glad to hear that. And thank you, Noah, for your service. I'm sure many couples were quite pleased to have a nice clean dish to enjoy a nice meal on. Let's talk about what is new and upcoming. Up until this point, you have described both here and in other places about this very targeted approach. And some people criticized, and some people, said, oh, just, you just roll it out fast and furious. But until you stop and look at the numbers, a 49% reduction here, or between 46 and 49% reduction in hospitalizations here in Rhode Island versus the other states where they say, okay, they just bulldozed it out. It's not to throw a dig at them, but there's something to be said for the numbers there where it's only in the 20s and 30s of a reduction in hospitalization.
Yeah, I think, Ben, what people are getting sort of confused about is, what are we measuring here, right? And I think sometimes when you're in the middle of something, you don't always see the forest for the trees. And I think what I look at is public health outcomes. I think what a lot of people are looking at, the doses of vaccine, which is an activity or a process. And the activity and the process is being improved, and it will get better. But having said that, Rhode Island is in a very favorable state for its public health outcomes. And I would throw this out to you. If we did not have a vaccine, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys remember Dr. Fauci saying thought it'd be 12 to 18 months before we had a vaccine.
True.
So it really was achievable. They wouldn't have a vaccine. But if we didn't have a vaccine, when you look at our public health measures, people passing away, people staying overnight in a hospital, people being admitted to a hospital, our percent positive rate, and our number of cases, those have all been trending down consistently over the last several months. Those are all positive. So if you saw that, people would be pretty happy with the public health measures. And I think what people are getting a little bit frustrated, maybe anxious or even angry about is just the activity about the vaccine, because they're looking at us compared to other states. And Rhode Island's approach has been different. I'm not saying it's worse. I'm not saying it's better. It's just been different. It was very targeted. The way we approached it was we took the folks in the nursing homes, folks in assisted living, the folks who are passing away, their staff, and then we looked at occupations. So we took the most vulnerable people, and then we looked at occupations. And the occupations that we included, healthcare workers, firefighters, law enforcement, a lot of the really critical people who were really needed to run a civilization, those are the people who are there, who got a vaccine. Now, people can criticize that approach, but when we look at the group that we included with occupations, it was over 100,000 people. And quite frankly, when you have to pull those people into your vaccine process by invitation, it just takes longer. And quite frankly, that's just simply what happened. When you do look at the outcomes, though, compared to other states, we do show very favorably with keeping people out of a hospital and reducing mortality. And that really is what we've been trying to do from the beginning. So, don't get me wrong, people, if they choose to be frustrated, that's up to them. But part of what I say to people, and I think this is just important to get your mind around this, is as a population, not just locally, but the country and the planet, we're all going through this trauma together. We're all going through this experience. And everybody experiences pain every day from the pandemic. No matter who you are, we all experience pain from the pandemic. That affects us all. And it doesn't affect us positively. And that's why I think you need a purpose to put your mind in the right spot. And what I do every day is I wake up every day thinking about, I got a little over 1 million patients. Some of them I worry about more than others. And I got to keep them all healthy today. And I got to figure out what I can do to do that. So when I wake up in the day, I say, wow, one, I am thankful that I have 2 safe and effective vaccines. I look at my team and I'm excited to work with my team. And then I just choose to live my life from a spirit of joy because I can. And then I start thinking about what I can do to make the world a better place. I choose not to dwell on frustration and anxiety and anger because those are places everyone's mind can go. And I don't mean to quote the Star Wars too often, but that really is the dark side. I mean, when you really think about the dark side, from what George Lucas was trying to say was, there is a dark side. And quite frankly, he wasn't just trying to be science fiction. He was trying to point out a concept, which is that where is your mind going? And when you really think about it, we vaccinated our first person 64 days ago. It's about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Not too terribly long ago. And so I kind of want to put in perspective. I was like, look, 115,000 people have gotten a vaccine so far. We're heading in the right direction.
No, that certainly are. And the speed now comes into effect. We've got the 2 mass vaccination sites that are open as of this point. The way for people to sign up is now on a centralized website and a phone number. And some people may have commented on the different ways you're approaching it, doing it from a CVS and Walgreens perspective, which is great because some people are comfortable going there, and that's wonderful. You did it with the cities and towns, and I can tell you as a person who lives in a smaller town that our fire department, our police department, our town, they have a better idea and a more concise, headspace for where those danger populations are, whether they be elderly or whether they have health conditions or whatever. So they were able to utilize that. So that's great. And now we got the mass vaccination sites, whether it be the Dunk or in Cranston. And I'm sure as time goes on, more will come online. So I will share those numbers and the phone number rather, and the website so people can take a look at that. Folks, be sure to go and share this, especially if you have somebody who is perhaps not on Facebook or YouTube. Share this with them. Let them borrow your phone for a few minutes so they can learn about this. The other thing that I found very interesting is that we're getting a boost in our doses, a dose allotment, because Pfizer has made it so now you can get 6 doses out of the vial versus the 5. And I had read somewhere that they were applying, or one of them was applying to figure out if they could get 10 doses into a vial. It was just a machine thing. I never understood, or I never just realized, because let's face it, I make stupid videos for the internet, that was a thing. Like every little thing you do has to go through approval, even if you want to up the doses, and they said it'd be better for the machines. So that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, I mean, the vaccines have been interesting. One of the surprises of this was, it's interesting, when Moderna made their vaccine, they made it in a 10-dose vial because we live in a 10-dose culture, right? Pfizer made theirs in a 5-dose vial because that's another culturally acceptable number. But when you look at the Pfizer bottle, you have to add a diluent. You have to add normal saline, sterile. You add sterile normal saline to the Pfizer bottle to reconstitute it. That just means take the powder and turn it into a liquid. Well, you have to add 1.8 milliliters to the bottle. Well, if you're taking out 0.3 milliliter doses, well, you have to be a math genius to know this. 1.8 divided by 0.3 is 6. So you actually do get 6 doses. And they actually changed it with the Food and Drug Administration to say, yeah, it's a 6-dose vial. With the Moderna vial, by the way, you do get 10 doses very reliably, but oftentimes if you do it, exactly right, you'll often get 11 doses. Wow. So those little extra bonuses help us a little bit. And that's where you do accumulate that. If you have to do it right, though, you can't pool vaccine from one to another. Like, in other words, if there's a little residual left over in a Moderna vaccine, you don't take that little residual and add it to another bottle of Moderna vaccine, because that starts looking like sterile compounding and you risk contamination. So we're very, very particular about making sure our vaccine supply is sterile and safe at all times. But those have been some bonuses here, and that's been useful, and that's been very helpful to us.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, listen, I'm not that bright a guy, but to be able to go onto the CDC's website, just a little bit of just looking around and seeing and learning what I can. And then when the Johnson-Johnson vaccine comes online, I know they're going through the process, their transportation, their handling is a little easier. And so that'll just, I mean, that's fuel on the fire all around.
It'll be a lot easier. One of the things that about the Pfizer vaccine is it comes in lots of 975 doses. So I just can't park that into a doctor's office, and you have to have a freezer that goes down to -70. So that rules out almost every doctor's office. The Moderna vaccine comes in lots of 100 doses. So again, big quantities. The Johnston-Johnson vaccine, I'm excited about it because the efficacy is really, really pretty good. I mean, people are hearing what they're hearing, but the efficacy is pretty good. But with the Johnson-Johnson vaccine, although it's one dose, it's one dose for now. There's ongoing research to see what a second dose would look like at day 57. But the more people I can get vaccinated with these different vaccines, the more people I can get immunity, the closer we get to where we want to get to. And I do think the J&J vaccine will be here next month. I'm very curious about the Novavax vaccine as well. The Novavax vaccine clinical trial ended Sunday, and that we haven't seen data yet on that, but I expect to see data on that before the week is over. So that'll be intriguing as well. And so who knows, maybe the Novavax vaccine will be out here in April. You start to see real excitement, because now all of a sudden you're seeing like, look, this is good. And we're getting more vaccine every week. I like our supplies that are increasing. I like the efficiencies I've seen too. I've talked to the team several times in the last 24 hours. There's definitely some efficiencies that have been learned and are going to move forward. So I think that's a positive as well.
You mentioned the last time we were on talking about masks, and some people may be, okay, we get it, the mask. But you brought up the upgrading of the mask. I did order some KN95s. They came in a variety of colors. My wife, for some reason, separated all the black ones and she left them to me. I don't know why. I thought, we can share them, different colors. She gave me no pink or purple ones. Those are gone.
Very, very slimming to have a black mask. Perhaps that's what was being said there. I don't know.
That's why I wear the black polo, my friend. That's why I wear the black polo.
Go.
But the masking is important, especially as just this week we learned that there are some of the variants making their way here into Rhode Island.
Yeah, that's very much the case. And so we did find 3 people who were tested recently, who actually had the United Kingdom variant. Now, keep in mind, this was not at all a surprise. And the United Kingdom variant was in 40 states. So we're state 41. So it wasn't a surprise. But the number one thing we can do, and I think this is just an important concept, is, people are conceding this ground to the enemy that it's just going to become the dominant strain in 90 days. And I just don't think we can concede ground to the enemy that quickly. I don't know any American who gives up a battle before it's well fought. And quite frankly, the way you well fight this battle is you upgrade your mask. Whether you wear a KN95, which I happen to have one handy here because this is the mask I use if I go anywhere.
Sure.
Or whether you wear a KF94, because sometimes I want to do this. They look similar. The KF94 is made in Korea. This one's made in China. And some people like the non-medical grade N95. It's another fine mask.
Sure.
Other people like the double mask. And I think those are fine strategies people can do. But you've got to, say, look, how can I fight the enemy a little bit more effectively? And I think one of the things you can do is you can upgrade your mask. That's a way to be a more effective soldier in this battle.
We talked about that. We also talked about education. Something I failed to mention on the last one, you have a podcast. And if people are into podcasts, talk to me about that, because it started during the pandemic. It's one of those things that kind of came up, and you and I believe it's Dr. Chan do this podcast. Now talk to me about this.
Yeah, we do a podcast called Public Health Out Loud. And Ben, it was kind of a thing where for years people around the department have been saying, you really ought to do a podcast. And it was one of those things where it's like, we never really got around to it. But during the pandemic, it became one of those things where I said, we really need to do a podcast. It's just, you need a space to say what you want to say. So the podcast Public Health Out Loud is really just public health for the public. We talk about topics mostly related to the pandemic right now, but we'll get into topics that are outside the pandemic eventually. But really what we do is it's a longer time for Dr. Chin and I to have a conversation about the pandemic. And it really just gets into some natural spaces. We've talked about the variant. We've talked about something as mundane as, where are we going to be handshaking in the future? Are we going to be shaking hands in the future? My guess is, I don't know, maybe not. I don't know that I'm going to be a handshaker in the future. We did an episode yesterday. It's going to come out tomorrow. And our latest episode was, what happened to the flu? Did it fly away? We've seen almost no flu in Rhode Island, much less than there's been in New England, which has been very little, and much less in the United States. But like when I look at the amount of influenza in the state, it's small. This is something I think we haven't talked to anyone about this before, but no one so far has died from influenza in Rhode Island this year. So that's new. We've never been in that space. But when I look at the numbers right now, the influenza activity is less than a tenth of what it normally is in Rhode Island right now. We're seeing very little. So to me, that's a real positive, and that's something exciting. But I think, if people do want to listen to our podcast, the easiest place to find it, you can find it on Apple, Spotify, Google Play. But the easiest place to find it is health.ri.gov/podcast. And then we just put it right there. You can find our podcast at health.ri.gov/podcast.
That's pretty cool. Did your other doctor friends give you any kind of grief and be like, oh, look at this guy, he's already started a podcast, wow, he's so hip?
Not at all. People have been very encouraging about it. And some have actually, we've had quite a few on it already too. I think,
Good.
One of the things I found is it's much easier to do it if we have a guest on it. Actually next week, we're recording an episode with Dr. Chan's brother. Dr. Ben Chan is actually the state epidemiologist in New Hampshire. Oh, cool. So it's going to be fun to record that episode next week, get a chance to meet Dr. Chan's brother. And we got some other fun episodes planned as well too. The pandemic it's really influenced all of our lives. We did an episode with a couple musicians that was kind of fun just to see how has it affected you as a musician. So Casey Cook, who's a local Rhode Island musician, just, she's got some records out there, in Spotify, but we had her on with another local Rhode Island artist. It's just sort of fun, like, how has this affected musicians? Because it's really affected musicians. And I think part of the thing about a podcast is you get a chance to explore some of these different topics and spend a little bit of time with people. It's kind of fun.
Absolutely. Well, that's why you're here on mine. This is more of a video vlog cast, this series that I've been doing for a couple of years. I wanted to leave you with upping your props. I don't know if you could see this, but I purchased this at a local bookstore recently so I could better understand pandemics for babies. I will be releasing the reading of this pretty soon. It's a very good book. It's got wonderful illustrations. It talks about quarantine, isolation, the researchers, the doctors, washing your hands, epidemic, endemics, everything. It's all right here and in something that I could understand. So I one-upped your props, sir.
It's outstanding. Outstanding. I love it. I love it. Well, I love one that you have that book, and I love that someone wrote that book, and I love even more that someone illustrated that, and I love that it's in cardboard. Yes. Like, this is for toddlers. This isn't just a baby book. This is a toddler book because it's in that hard, style board there. So it's fun. Oh, sure. That's great. Yeah, that's awesome.
So look for that video coming out soon, Doc. Once again, thank you so much to everybody. Any final parting words before we head out?
Yeah, my friends, keep your eye on the goal. I think we're going to get there sooner than later. I really feel like we're in a positive place in Rhode Island. As much as people are struggling with their anxiety about the pandemic, we actually are in a very good spot right now. And I think we're well positioned to beat this thing. I'm looking forward to a very good summer. I hope everybody does as well.
You said it earlier this week, and you said it a number of times. You can choose your outlook. You can choose how you look at things. So find what's causing the negativity. If you can eliminate it, great. If not, reduce it at all costs, but keep it positive because, folks, The foot is on the gas pedal now, and we'll be quickly depressing that accelerator faster than you can go on 95, which is great because, you can go as fast as you want with this stuff. So Dr. McDonald, thank you. It's great to see you as well. Stay healthy, stay safe. We'll chat soon, I'm sure.
Thank you. Have a good and keep up the great.